What's up, everybody? Welcome to With All Due Respect. I'm Marcus Flowers, and that's our good friend Madeline Summerville. We're your host today. How you doing, Maddie?
I'm tired. I was up late last night from the primaries. How are you doing?
Oh, yeah, I bet. I didn't stay up all night watching the primaries. I stayed up. I called it a day around maybe 11:30, so not super late. I wasn't going to pull an all-nighter last night, or I'd be in the same situation. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
interesting results from the primaries, and we'll get into that,
we
everybody.
shall.
And this is the show where we cut through the noise, call out the nonsense, and actually talk about what's happening. Not the version you get in the press releases, and definitely not the version you get from people who think that yelling is a substitute for leadership. Every week, Maddie and I bring you real conversations with real people who are in the fight, candidates, organizers, experts, folks who aren't just talking about making a change. They're out there actually making it happen. And then we talk about the news, break down the headlines, because let's be honest, the news cycle right now, it's a lot. War, politics, culture, it's all colliding, and somebody's got to make sense of it. So whether you're here to stay informed, get fired up, or just hear somebody say what you've been thinking all week, you're in the right place. And with that, let's get into it. Maddie, we got an excellent guest today, one who I think needs no introduction. I mean, everybody around here in Georgia knows
Mhm.
who this man is. Keith, bring him out. We've got Brigadier General retired Sean Harris, who is the Democratic nominee for Georgia's 14th Congressional District. Sean, welcome back to the show.
Welcome,
Hey,
sir.
you
Thank you
know,
for being here.
yeah, it's always an honor to be on y'all guys' show. And anytime you call me, the answer is definitely going to be yes.
We're
You
honored to
know,
have you.
you're one of my favorite people on the planet. So, anytime I can have a conversation with you, sit down and chop it up, it's a privilege for me. So, all right, let's get right into it, Sean, because I know you're short on time today.
Mhm.
So we're going to go right into this. So, since our last conversation, we touched on your decision to step into this race. But now that you've had a couple of cycles to build
Yeah.
relationships and momentum, what have you learned most about the district and the people that you're fighting for, that you've been fighting for constantly for the last 2 years?
Yeah. The key thing is the people here in Northwest Georgia are ready for change. And when I say to people, I'm talking about Democrats, independents, and yes, Republicans, because at the end of the day, they have been sold a bill of goods and it's not working anymore. And you're right, Marcus. I didn't realize I was going to be in so many different elections in a short 2.5 years. But when you get into special election and all those kind of things, you get a lot of experience. And that is the difference this time. I have the experience, we have the momentum. And then my person that I'm running against, Clay Fuller, is weak. And he hadn't done one thing since he went to DC in these last 6, 7 months.
Zero.
Well, I think you've sort of led us perfectly into the next question, which is you're running in a historically red district. What
Mhm.
are some of the what are some of the items on the bill of goods that they've tried to sell people? What are the issues that people are able to come together on? Has anything surprised you?
Yeah, one of the things I need to let your audience know is when I ran in this district, when Brother Marcus ran in this district, everybody wrote this district off. The
Hmm.
reality is, with Marcus' work, then what I built on all these different times that we ran, we brought this thing down by 25 points in the
Mm,
last election that I had against Clay. And the reality of it is, by bringing it down by 25 points, anywhere else in the great state of Georgia, really anywhere else in the United States, a Democrat would have won. The
mm,
reality is now this particular race here is inside of that margin that we can actually flip it. And with the excitement of people saying, wait a minute, the general, Sean, that's what I just tell him to call me Sean. Sean is not walking away from this. Sean is in the fight, and Sean is fighting for everybody in the district. And based on that, people are saying, you know what, I'm going to stick with this guy because he's been telling the truth. Affordability
mm.
is the math is not mathing. And on top of all of those things, Donald Trump got us in a war of choice. We just had soldiers got killed a few weeks ago. and one of them was right here from Georgia. So the reality of it is a lot of things are coming into play with this election. But the greatest thing is I'm not the only person on the ticket this time. We got an outstanding ticket from the top all the way to the very bottom. And based on that, it's going to pull all kind of people out to this election.
So, you touched on some things that are real interesting there. And, that hits very close to home for me, because you're talking about a district. When I ran for this district back in, for those of you who don't know, I ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene in the district. Then Sean came in the next cycle and ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene in the district. Now, when I found the district, there wasn't a whole lot. There was some, but not a whole lot of Democratic structure in the district. We'd been written off by the likes of the D-Trip, the DNC, and a lot of people saw, Flowers came in and raised a lot of money in that district. But what they didn't see is that there was groundwork that was being laid in that race from day one. Now, Sean, your campaign after my race, there was some groundwork laid.
Oh, yeah.
But then you came in and you built on the foundation that we were putting in there. How have you approached that building on top of the foundation and you building it up even further while also making this race fully your own?
Well, I tell you, Marcus, you're exactly right. From a leadership point of view, we took what you had already put in place, and then we decided to build on top of that. And when I said built on top of that, not only did we build vertical, but we also built horizontal. And what I mean by horizontal,
and the numbers prove that out.
That we said, no matter what zip code is in this district, we're not going to get into, is it 2 Democrats in this area and 30 over here and all that? We're going to talk to everybody across the board, because we went on the premise of building what we have is that if we talk to everybody, we will find out that in this district, we may not agree on everything, but it is some fundamental things that we agree upon. And because I'm looking and willing to talk and work for everybody, that those people will come to me. And every time we have our election, more and more people are actually coming to me. And I am convinced, everybody's convinced, that in this election come November, I think it's another 86 days, we're going to shock the world. And not only Georgia won't be purple anymore, because we're actually going to win the governor's race, and that's going to turn this whole thing blue.
That's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping.
I think I love that the candidates that we typically bring on this show, like yourself, are very open to talking with people from all sides, regardless, because energy matters. And when you have discussions in a direction that creates more openness and that allows ideas to circulate, I think it matters. I think it makes a difference. And I'm wondering, with your past races and this one, both the electorate and yourself, what are the differences? How are you finding people this time versus last time? And how are you finding yourself this time versus last time?
Well, this time, as far as myself, I am completely at ease. The very first time that I ran, I'll be honest with you, I was still General Harris. I wasn't used to people touching me. I wasn't even used to people close around me, because I had just came from a world that 25 people with job was to keep me alive every day. That's not the way politics is supposed to happen. They're supposed to be able to touch you, feel you, and take pictures with you. So now I'm the first guy that wants to take a picture with everybody. I'm the first guy that want to take time, and I'm in no rush. I got time to stick around, talk to you one-on-one. But on top of all of that is I have made it very, very clear that I'm a moderate Democrat. Okay, great. But I'm not getting wrapped around the axe on what T-shirt does the person wear here in Northwest Georgia. My focus is making sure I'm taking care of them, their kids, and their grandkids. And that's it, period. And I think that is the piece that's actually making people want to come and work with me, because they're saying, you know what? This guy
has made
it very clear that this race is not about me. It's strictly about making sure that the people in Northwest Georgia get a fair shake. And that makes me different from many other politicians. I'm quite happy right here on my farm raising cattle, and that'll be good enough for me.
You have a dog, don't you?
Yes, yes.
What kind of dog do you
His
have?
his name is Maximus. He's a miniature pincher. Brought him back from Israel.
Oh my
And
God.
matter of fact, Maximus cost more. Maximus plane ticket cost more than my plane ticket and college plane ticket. But he's back now, and he's living a good life.
That's awesome. I love dogs. I always have to ask.
We had a Max once upon a time. During my last campaign, Max, our dog passed, and his name was Max as well.
Mhm.
Well, I tell you something when you were talking about pets, and my cows are not pets, but we have one cow on this farm. Her name is Snowflake. And they were supposed to have a name, but somebody named her. Well,
One of your kids.
I get more attention. This campaign gets more attention when we talk about the cows versus that's when I'm talking about policy. Right now, if you go to my webpage, tonight I'm going to do a town hall. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be in Ringo. That's one of those places that they say Democrats shouldn't go. Well, come on, go. It's going to be 300-400 people there waiting to talk to me. But the key thing that you'll see on my social media today is we had to announce that Snowflake's supposed to be having a baby on September 3rd. It's more people. It's more people asking me questions about Snowflake and the pregnancy than ask me about affordability. That's what
they want to see you do it live on YouTube. So that's what they want.
I would definitely
do that
be
again.
out there that day. But what I would say is this: that's what makes me different. Is that people can see themselves in me, in somebody that's a real person. This is, if you lived here in Rockmart where I live, if you want to talk to Sean Harris, hang out at Tractor Supply and hang out at Walmart. I'll be through there sometime today.
I want to kind of expound on that a little bit, Sean. A lot of people outside of this district and districts like ours across the country, they think races like this are unwinnable or not worth investing in. What have the last couple of cycles shown you about the value of competing everywhere and earning the trust one conversation at a time? Because one of the things I've always said is democracy demands competition.
Yeah.
I've always been a strident fighter for Democrats fighting everywhere. So,
yeah, Marcus, you're exactly right. The reality of it, when people invest in my campaign or the team's campaign, because it's a team, it's not just me, but when they invest in our campaign, they can actually see the results. We can show the results from the very first time that I ran to right now, real time. And when I say the data is not Sean Harris data, you can actually go because the AJC actually wrote about this campaign. It's documented by outside sources. Says, hey, Sean Harris has something special up there. If you invest in his campaign, they can flip it. The last election that we had, when we had those little 3-week runoff things, a special, what they called it, the Republicans had to spend $2.3 million on this campaign. Think about that. I'm in the rubiest, reddest district in the great state of Georgia, and they spending money on me. That's the same thing they got to do this time. And when they spending more money on me, they can't spend money on Ossoff. They can't spend money on Keisha Bottoms. They can't spend money on anybody else. But the reality of it is, when they spend money on me this time, because I know people are going to give to our campaign, I'll have the ability to fight back at them. Where last time, they kind of caught me a little bit there, but that's how you learn. And every time we actually get into this battle, we learn every day. And as you know, Marcus, spending time in the military, you know what? Sometimes you don't win. In order to win the war, you got to win the battle. And you got to go through it. And that's what we have done here locally here in Northwest Georgia. We have been through the rigors. And I tell you something else, the whole state of Georgia is paying attention to what we're doing and taking some of those thoughts and saying, you know what, if I'm running statewide on something, I might better go to some of these small towns and talk to these everyday people instead of just staying in Atlanta and major cities. We guys, Democrats, we got to go everywhere.
That's it.
I feel like the Democratic Party has done really, honestly, a phenomenal job of that in the past few months. And I've been super critical, incredibly critical of the Democrat Party since the year before we lost, since before that, because I was a speechwriter in the Georgia State Legislature, and I was begging the state senators to get real and authentic and to speak up for what they believed in and to have more courage. And since then, the best thing that I've seen come from Democrat candidates across the board has been their ability to communicate. And it's very impressive to me. And it's the exact opposite of what the Republicans have done, because what they did was reverse engineer a populist message. They got data from the internet about people to try to figure out what would emotionally move them rather than knocking on the door and talking to somebody. And in your particular district that has strong partisan habits, how do you talk to voters who may not agree with you on everything, but they're still looking for steadiness, seriousness, and somebody who they can genuinely trust to represent them?
You know, I was up at a particular store yesterday here locally, and that particular store is shutting down. The owner of it passed away, unfortunately, but it's shutting down, and they were selling a whole bunch of stuff in there that normally farmers and others would come and buy. And while I was in there, ran into a friend. And when I say a friend, I consider this individual a friend, but he said to me, "Hey, Sean," in front of everybody in the store, "you know, I'm still a Republican, but Sean, I'm going to vote for you. But Sean, I want you to know that I'm going to hold your ass accountable." That's what the exact words he said to me in front of everybody. And I said, "Hey, man, I know it. I wouldn't think anything less." And I said, when I get to Congress and come home on the weekend, when you see me anywhere, I want you to hold me accountable. That is the difference. And that's what Democrats got to do, is be able to say, you know what? I can talk to my people that I'm representing anywhere in the open, because we being transparent 100%. One other thing I just want to say is, tonight when I go to this town hall, I don't have a speech. I think that's leadership. I'm going to go out there and talk directly to the people. I saw Marcus down in Savannah a couple weekends ago. I would encourage people to go back, if they got it somewhere, go back and see me walk on the stage. It's no speech with me. I know what I want to say is in my head. I'm a leader, and I can look directly in the camera, look directly in people's faces and say, "Hey, this is what Sean Harris is going to do for you." Nobody's behind me, got no puppet telling me what to say. And that is the difference between leadership and somebody who just want to be out here and call himself a politician. And that's the difference between Clay Fuller and me. Is Clay Fuller is a puppet for Donald Trump. He cannot say one thing about Donald Trump. Where Sean Harris, nobody tells me what to do. I will never sell my soul to anybody. The only person my soul is with is Jesus Christ himself.
I love it. And I just want to add to what you said about being able to come up and speak from your heart. Beyond that, actually, is implied the clarity of thought, right? Because you have to be certain about what you're going to say. Like if you can't give somebody an elevator pitch, like, you know, your 15-second version of what it is that you want to communicate, you're not ready to talk about it. Right. And if you're saying that you're like, I will stand up there and I will talk based on the feeling that I get from this room, because I'm so clear on what my message is, and I'm so in tune with the people who are here, that I know how to communicate with them, and I know what to say in order for them to walk away with what I want them to walk away with, if that makes sense.
You know, you're spot on. When I come on anybody's podcast, when I'm even on the national news, that's another thing that makes me different from other candidates. With this war that's going on, I'm on the national news every week talking about the Iran war as kind of like a military analyst that's still running for Congress. But the fact of it is, nobody tells me what the question is going to be. Just like today, I'm on y'all guys' show. I have no clue what you're going to ask me. I believe as a leader, you should be able to talk directly into the camera, talk directly to the people and say, "Hey, this is the question. This is the answer. It's no spin on it." Because when you start putting spin on it, then you get into the bounds of, well, what's the best way to say it? I want to represent, or I will be representing, people from the rural community. They just want it plain, and they want to make sure they can actually trust the person that's actually talking to them, but more specifically, listening to them and getting it done.
And that's one of the things I'm going to tell you, people. That's one of the things that attracted me to this man from day one when we met. You know, we're both veterans. You know, when you take away his stars, take away my stripes, at the end of the day, we're two country boys that say it how we feel it. And I respect that. I was the same way on the campaign trail. Yeah, of course, you got to get that 10, 15 seconds of talking points out that the campaign wants you to get out. But then it was another 15 minutes of me just coming straight from the heart and then asking the people what they wanted. And
Marcus,
listening.
I tell you, I'm not sure if people remember the last time on the show, so I always like to say it. And every time I see you, I like to say it. Hey, to the audience, I'm talking directly to you. That guy, Marcus, that you see on your screen, I went to McDonald's in Cedartown, Georgia, to tell him, hey, man, I just retired out the military. I want to support you. What can the general do to help you get elected? And that guy said, hey, Sean, I think you should run for Congress. So,
of course,
it's Marcus.
How it went. We weren't supposed to be at McDonald's. Let's get this straight. I hate McDonald's.
Exactly.
Coffee, but the place we went to was closed that day.
You could have just been getting a sweet tea, okay?
Look,
it's fine.
That was the worst coffee known to man.
It was about the conversation that made that time. I think we sat there about 2-3 hours, right?
I love it.
Yes, we did.
So,
we did.
I mean, I think it was well past lunchtime when we finally left. But let me get into back into this before we have to let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, we're in a really different political environment than we were, hell, even a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And as you're looking back on this current cycle, what dynamics do you think are shaping your race the most, the national race, the Democratic Party for the midterms, and how do you think voters are responding to those broader national political
I tell you, Marcus,
issues out there?
I still think everything is still local. But because this economy is so bad, and the Trump administration and Clay and others are trying to tell people that it's actually good, but people are seeing for themselves that, wait a minute, this is not good. And then every month, the numbers come out that says, okay, we're losing jobs instead of losing jobs. On top of that, the inflation rate is higher than now. It's so high that if you have a job, when you get to the end of the week and get your paycheck, or every 2 weeks, whatever way you get your paycheck, you've realized very quickly you didn't make enough money to cover all the costs. So I think all of those things that's happening nationally is forcing things at the local level and making people, when they close their door at home, they're saying to themselves, regardless of Democrat, Independent, or Republican, hey, the math is not mathing out. Things cost way too much. And the president continues to lie to us, saying that we're going to be out of this war next week. And then on top of that, Republicans like Clay continue to say the president is telling us the truth. Just stick with him. This big, ugly bill, or in his case, the big, beautiful bill, but I call it the big, ugly bill, is doing great things for you. Guess what? Nobody can see it. Nobody can feel it. They know what's true for right now. And come November, they're going to come out in mass numbers and actually vote for the entire ticket and actually put Georgia back in the right path. And the last thing I'll touch on is right now, just the other day, another data point came out that Georgia is like 49th when it comes to health care, because we don't want to take the Medicare expansion, which is crazy.
Squarely on Brian Kemp.
And little things like that is killing their whole state, but you can really feel it here in the rural community.
Yeah,
it's heartbreaking. And I think we can kind of take that to transition into this next piece. I see your shirt says leadership matters, and leadership is something that we talk about a lot on the show because it's something that people don't talk about really anymore, but folks who are in the military learn it, live it, and breathe it, and teach it every day. And I love being around people who feel that. It means something to me, and it raises the bar for me in general. And I was hoping to ask, you spent your career in leadership at a high level, including in uniform. How has that experience shaped the way you think about public service, accountability, and what leadership should look like in elected office.
Yeah, you know, and thank you for that. When I say leadership matters, what I mean by that is this, is that a leader should understand the most important asset that he or she has at their in their atmosphere is the people. And as that's something that I believed when I was in the military, that's something I still believe today as I'm running for Congress. My focus must be on the people here in Northwest Georgia and Georgia as a whole. That's what the people here are asking me or telling me to focus on. And that's what I'm going to do. But one other thing I want to just say, and I know we're running close on time, but I think it's important that I just let your audience know this. When I look at leadership, leaders eat last. Leaders make sure that nobody else has anything else, you don't get it. And let me tell you something else about a leader. A leader, Sean Harris, would never be president of the United States, period. But if Sean Harris was president of the United States the other day in Turkey, and Secret Service came to me and said, hey, Sean, they looking to kill you. We're going to put you on Air Force One. Then we're going to sneak you out the other side and put you in a taco food truck. And then we're going to scoot you away. But we're going to leave all of the reporters, all of your staff, and the pilots on the plane to risk their life. I would say as a leader, and this is where leadership matter comes in, I would have said as a president, hey, Secret Service, thank you. But if they're going to kill me tonight, if you can't get everybody off that plane with me, then I'm staying on the plane. Because at the end of the day, that is what a leader would do. President Trump is more focused on himself, that he would leave his staff, senior leaders, and all the reporters on the plane with the pilots and fly to another country and then meet them up and say, hey guys, how y'all doing? That is an example of what
credible threat.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, there's a credible threat on the plane that I left you on. That's just
correct.
You know, I know you got to get out of here.
But he'll want them to fly with him somewhere next week.
Exactly. I know you got to get out of here real quick. And I think you just really touched on it. You know, when you compare your own leadership style to what people are seeing out of the current administration, and you just gave a brilliant example of that. You know, what do you think are the clearest differences in the temperament, priorities, and you know, the way leaders should treat both the public and the truth?
I tell you, when it comes to leadership and how you treat the other side, you should treat the other side with duty and respect. And what I mean by that, you may see me hit Clay on certain things. However, what I hit him on is actually just the truth. I'm not going to go at his character. I'm not going to talk about his family. I'm not going to talk about his faith. I'm not going to talk about any of those things. I'm just going to focus 100% on the issues. And if he's standing on the wrong side of those issues, then so be it. But I believe too many times in this world of politics, the individual could possibly be right on the issues. But in the world of politics, with lesser leaders or not even being a leader, they like to try to create something to go at your character. To give you a prime example, Marcus, when they spent that $2.3 million on me, the best they could call me was a liberal. That was it. I saw the commercial. They zoomed in close to make it seem
Harris
like I
too
had a
liberal
beard.
for Northwest Georgia.
For Northwest Georgia. If that's the best that you can say about Sean Harris, I'll take that every day. Because guess what? I'm just going to stay focused on the issues, because the people here in Northwest Georgia, they look for somebody to solve problems, not to be like you in the 8th grade pointing fingers at each other. Yeah. They looking for adults to be in the room, and I'm the adult that should be going to Washington, D.C. to represent them, that can reach across the aisle and get things done. And that's my promise to the people here in Northwest Georgia.
Absolutely. Outstanding. Sean, I know you got a long drive up to Ringo, and it's after 3:30. You need to get on the road. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure.
Always a pleasure having you. Hope you come back.
Y'all guys. And guys, I'm honest. Anytime you want me to be on your show or anything I can do for you, the answer is yes. I love to have you here live inside the district somewhere. We got a lot of statewide candidates that are coming through. We got the governor. Our next governor is going to be coming through. And I'm just excited that finally finally, the great state of Georgia and the Democrats are saying Northwest Georgia is in the play, and that's because of all the hard work my volunteers and everybody's done, and all the people that give to my campaign have done, that now all Democrats are coming through Northwest Georgia. And it wasn't like that a few years ago.
And real quick, tell people how they can give to your campaign and where they can go.
The way you can
campaigns need money, guys.
Yep, we definitely need money. I'm not going to lie to you. The way you can give to my campaign is SeanForGeorgia.com. That Sean is SHAWN. But to be honest with you now, you can spell it any kind of way you want to. It'll still pull me up. But what I would also say, please give it to our campaign, but also keep me in your prayers. Absolutely. Because this thing that we're doing is not easy. And when I say it's not easy for me, but it's also not easy for my family. It's not easy for my staff, because anytime you're doing something where you're about to bring about change, that's where it gets real tough. And I think everybody remembers the last campaign that we was going through. We had some foolishness where some people wanted to threaten me, and I had to have on a bulletproof vest. Hopefully we don't get back to that craze again. But if they see me on TV or see me somewhere and it looked like I've been in the weight room, that says I have a bulletproof vest under this shirt. But we're going to pray that doesn't happen. But I just want to thank everybody in advance for giving to my campaign.
Brigadier General retired Sean Harris, the Democratic nominee for Georgia's 14th Congressional District. As always, we appreciate you. We're going to let you get on out of here to your town hall.
Thank you so much.
You will definitely be seeing us out in the district and at some events that are upcoming shortly. I plan on.
Thanks now.
Not seeing you. Have a good one, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, yeah, always refreshing to talk with Sean. He's always on it, you know.
He has Tom Hanks energy. He has America's Dad energy, doesn't he?
Super, super great person. Big time energy. You know, you see him out working on the campaign trail. He's always on it. He's like a rock star.
Yeah.
In Georgia right now, so I can tell you.
I was like, when we were talking before the show, I was like, I know you, but I'm sure you don't know me. I mean, I know you because I'm in Democrat politics in Georgia, so of course I'm going to know you. But he's gracious and smart and kind, and obviously a far better candidate than his opponent.
And that's what it takes. That's what it takes, you know, especially in a district like ours. You know, you get out there and you got to talk to people and listen. He does that. So,
even if they're on the opposite side from you, because there are some really good people out there that we just let go, that we just threw away and decided that they weren't on, that they could never be on the same team, which was never true. It was never the case.
Yeah, never was. I mean, these races matter, people. You know, in these rural districts like ours, they matter. They matter for the people who are on the ground, who are feeling it now. I mean, you can feel that shift.
You can.
And things, you know, when it comes to, especially when it comes to affordability and healthcare, you know, people are talking differently than they were talking a couple of years ago. You know, and I pointed that out, and Sean is feeling that too. I mean, he was this close to winning that special election.
Yep.
I mean, it was that close. He moved that district 25 points.
It's crazy.
It's a crazy swing.
We've never seen anything like it, ever.
Forced it to a runoff.
And we know you laid that groundwork.
Almost won it in the jungle primary, which I was hoping that he'd pull it off.
We know you laid that groundwork, Marcus. Like, that's what you did. So.
I mean, there were a bunch of people that helped too, but you know, some of the money that we raised, you know, people talk about that a lot, but they don't talk about the fact that we used that money to build this groundwork, and it was not for nothing. You know, we accounted for 25% of Senator Warnock's win number. You know, because of the work we did in Northwest Georgia, that got him over the hump. And you know, when that race against Herschel Walker went to a runoff, that was just nuts in my.
Did I tell you we used to have Herschel Walker hour every night at my house? When he was running against Warnock, every night at 11:30, my husband and I would open up his computer and see whatever dumb nonsense Herschel Walker said that day. Every day for like 3 months up until the election.
And he definitely did it. And he's got family that lives in the district. When we were talking to them, none of them wanted him to run. You know, a lot of people said, don't do this.
No.
Getting back to helping Warnock out there, you know, we turned our entire campaign apparatus over and paid people for an additional month. You know, our entire field team, all the volunteers that paid canvassing. We did all of that for Warnock. So you can't tell me that doesn't make a difference, because it
Yes.
did make a difference. And what Sean's doing is going to make a difference. I guarantee you. I mean, not so much in the Ossoff race, because he's running against a horrible guy, but I think it's going to make a huge difference in this governor's race and in the AG race, and the Secretary of State race. I think the work that he does there is going to help out so many statewide candidates who are running right now on this ticket.
Yeah,
So.
I think Georgia politics is going to be really, really interesting and helpful for people who are trying to make sense of Wisconsin and Michigan, because what people don't realize is that Georgia has a history of people running as Republicans whose heart are really Democrats, because they knew that they couldn't win a seat if they didn't run as Republicans. So like Nathan Deal, a former governor of ours, was very famously a Democrat that ran as a Republican, and everybody knew it and nobody cared and everybody loved him. And so we're a little bit more of a bellwether than people realize.
Georgia's going to play such an important part in,
I think so,
not just 26, but in 28, 9 and 30. The road to victory runs right through Georgia. I tell people that it's not cliche.
No,
it's not one of those things. It literally runs right through here. We've got a chance to do some really historic things here by electing the first Black female governor in the country. We can do that. We can do that right here. We've got a hell of a chance, even though we're running against a billionaire who can, pretty much stroke a check and has shown that he's willing to spend whatever. I don't think it's going to be that effective this time. I don't think this is that cycle to do it.
It's crazy.
This is that cycle to do it. And since we're already on elections right now, we can talk about those primaries from last night.
Let's do it. Let me just shut my door really quickly. Sorry, it came open.
Yesterday, there was another big primary day. You had elections in Alabama, Connecticut, Minnesota, South Carolina, Vermont, and Wisconsin's the big one that everybody's talking about. So let's get into some of that.
Let's do it.
In Wisconsin, and I hate using this term, the establishment Democrat David Crowley nearly edged out Democratic Socialist Francesca Hong for the gubernatorial nod, and he'll face Trump-backed Tom Tiffany in November. Now, full disclosure, HTL, the PAC which I run, I was all in for my friend Mandela Barnes in that race, but Mandela dropped out, which is probably good for Crowley, because I think had he stayed in, they would have split.
Yeah, of course.
And, so, now Minnesota, they went in a different direction as far as a progressive. Peggy Flanagan beat Rep. Angie Craig for the Senate nomination, while, of course, Amy Klobuchar cruised right along, to the governor's nomination, while Mike Lindell from My Pillow fame, or is it My Pillow infamy?
What a goober.
He lost his.
He did. And I wrote on Twitter later, I was like, $10. He says the election was rigged.
He said it.
Did he?
He said it.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
It was rigged. He already said that.
It's a joke. It's ridiculous.
I was talking with our producer Keith before the show, and I was like, okay, what is it with these guys? This was a Republican primary, and now you're crying that was rigged. Shouldn't you have been waiting for the general election? Isn't that usually where you say the election was rigged if you're the MAGA plus candidate?
I mean, right. Yeah. I think the overall goal is just to confuse people, right? To instill distrust in our systems so that people feel uncertain. They feel like they can't trust anything. And then the only people they can trust are, the ones that they'll look to that are in leadership. And that's it. It's like a psychological control.
I ain't giving Mike Lindell that much credit. I think it's just sour grapes. He's trying to pull the Carrie Lake.
He's a moron. He's just a moron. And I'm very careful with my language. And I don't feel the need to say anything other than he's a moron. Like,
he is a bluff. He is. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But I think
So-
there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say about the Wisconsin race, and there's a lot to say about that versus the Michigan race.
Indeed. And that's and this is the thing that's been playing out in the media. So, what do you make of the DSA's successes and losses this year? Is it a real movement with real energy, or is it more based on media hype, and the affordability issues have actually been the core issues at the heart of the Democratic platform for a long time? I mean, that's the conversation I think we should be having.
Yeah.
But of course, the media is framing it this way: DSA versus, again, something that I hate to say, establishment Democrats, because I still don't know what the hell that means.
Yeah.
I mean, we agree on most things in the Democratic Party.
Yeah. And I think basically people just got frustrated with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, and because they're in leadership in the Democratic Party, they sort of shed a light on other folks who were in leadership, even if they didn't deserve it. They shed that negative light on them, and so that ended up qualifying as establishment, which it doesn't apply to everybody in the slightest.
I mean, if you take, let's just take Francesca Hahn losing this race, which the polls had her, I can't remember how far ahead, but they had her
like 9 points.
Yeah, they had her comfortably winning.
Same thing with El Sayed. Yeah.
And once again, the polls are wrong. Not surprised about that, because I've always said it. Polls,
they get things wrong.
Don't listen to them. You either get out there and you do the work, and the people are going to decide.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, forget about the polls. Nobody cares about them, and they've been wrong a lot of times here lately. And it's like more and more they're wrong and right. I mean, El Sayed was supposed to win by a whole lot, and this whole DSA thing that is getting put out there. They've been around for a while, but now they're getting all of this media nonsense. And let's be clear, some of the wild stuff on the DSA side, like getting rid of police and getting rid of prisons and
the Senate,
getting rid of the Senate and the presidency and all of that, that stuff's wild. Nobody, and I mean nobody in the Democratic Party is on board with any of that. I mean, and Republicans, like you said, they were spending a whole lot of money hoping that she would be the nominee so that they could use all the stuff that they've already got canned. Oh yeah, this is where the Democratic Party is right now. When you look at, and I want to say the far left of our party, people like, which Bernie Sanders is not in our party, but for all intents and purposes, he's a Democrat as far as I'm concerned. He votes 100% of the time, almost, maybe 99% of the time with Democrats. And AOC, which people say she's far left, but I think most of her, and this is me, and I consider myself a centrist, I think most of the things that AOC talks about are mainstream as far as I'm concerned. I mean, when you're talking about Medicare for all, that's not radical anymore.
I'd say her politics mirror mine pretty closely.
I feel like they're mainstream,
So yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I study demographics because I'm a jury consultant, and one of the reasons why is because I love to prove people wrong. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I think that race, gender, and socioeconomic status tend to not matter nearly as much as just the age into which you were born. Right. Because generations of people are raised with similar values based on what resources they have access to at the time. If you were raised by somebody who was in the Great Depression, you're going to grow up with more of a scarcity mindset than you would otherwise. Like right. It's just the what do they call it? The zeitgeist. It's the feeling of the time. And I like to prove to people that transcends race and gender and sexuality. It's not separated by that. And so I think looking at these results has been extremely interesting for me. So here's kind of how I am breaking it down, because Michigan and Wisconsin, if you look at the Senate race versus the governor race there, it looks like they turned out extremely similarly. And like oh, okay, well, it makes sense then that the DSA is, almost equal with the establishment Democrat in swing states. That's not true.
Not true. It's not.
Let me show you. Let me tell you why. Okay, it's first of all, in El Sayed's race was very different than Hong's race, and never forget that the candidate themselves matters. Mamdani and El Sayed are very charismatic, handsome dudes that have a big presence and that have been training and or learning about the things that they talked about for decades.
Right? I say it's pretty much a political athlete. He's got some talent.
And Mamdani's mom, actually, I knew who she was before I knew who he was. And I remember seeing this one director's roundtable that she did because she's a Oscar nominated director and writer. And I remember thinking, wow, she really inspired me. And then when I found out that was his mom, I was like, well, of course, her child turned out to be extraordinary. So don't discount the individual, right? Because the amount of riz that Francesca Hong has cannot compare to these other two candidates, right?
I think we also need to point out the fact that El Sayed is not a DSA candidate. He's not
even a socialist. Yeah, he's not. So how can we compare those two races when one candidate is so much better than the other? So first of all, with the Michigan race, Haley Stevens outspent El Sayed, was like 12-1 or something, 11-1, something like that. It
was huge. Right? They spent a lot.
They spent a lot. Right.
I heard figures like $60 million. I'd have to look at some FEC reports to figure out exactly.
And there was no such extraordinary disparity in the amount of spending in the Wisconsin race. Right. So even though El Sayed was a much better candidate than Haley Stevens, and it would seem like he should come out way ahead, right? The amount of money that was spent on his race was like 11 times less. So now let's look at Hong's race, right? So more was spent on the establishment Democrat, but there was a lot of chaos in that race because one person dropped out and then the other person dropped out and then one person came back in. And normally in those kinds of races, you will see that those candidates are taboo because when you feel like you can't trust something in politics, you drop it immediately. Yeah. And so it's very rare that somebody who has dropped out and then come back into a race would ever win. It almost never happens. And it's usually done just so somebody else can win. Right. But in this case, I think what happened was, first of all, he got some very good endorsements at the last minute and Hong didn't. And if you look at how the undecided voters in each race split, that's where the key is. So in the Michigan race, it was only like it went from being like 30% undecided or like 26% undecided to 6% 2 weeks before the election.
Right.
It was still 36% undecided in the Wisconsin election 2 weeks before the election. So people, I think because El Sayed started doing a lot more advertising and because the media started picking him up more to where his message got through, there were much fewer undecided voters. And if you look at that huge voting block that was still undecided in the Wisconsin race, it looks like almost all of them went for what's the guy's name? What's his name? Crowley. Almost all of them, because that's how the numbers worked out. It's like they just switched columns. So what's very clear to me from all of this, like the one thing we know we can take away, other than we don't know what's going on, is that undecided voters at the end of the day are going to go with the safer choice. That's the thing that we can take away from this. And it's something that if you study people and psychology, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I mean, makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Let's just hope that here in Georgia, all those undecideds at the last minute break the right way.
Yeah.
Ms. Keisha makes a lot more sense than Rick Jackson.
Oh my God. I like that.
Sorry to bring it back to Georgia, but yeah.
Like Rick Jackson.
Sorry to bring it back to Georgia. And Ossoff makes more sense. And I'm not really sorry to bring it back to Georgia. I like bringing it back to Georgia. This is a great state. So,
I do too. I love this place. I love Georgia.
Yeah,
I really do.
We want to make it better.
Yeah.
And okay, so let's let's dig into Trump a little bit. He's keeping to elections. He's still not ruling out that he won't declare a national emergency for elections ahead of the midterms. Um, because it's looking more and more like Republicans are going to take a shellacking. Is that the word that Obama used in, was it 2010 or 2012?
A shellacking.
A shellacking. It's looking like they're going to take a shellacking, but not like that. They're not going to lose 40 seats, but they could lose 15, 16, which, I guess in this case, there are going to be some DSA people elected. Would they be able to cause some trouble for a leader Jeffries or a leader Schumer? Maybe, but maybe not. I think if we win 15 seats in the House, that's I think that's enough to get pretty much anything done that we need to get done in the House.
I think so too.
Provided that we focus on getting work done, and it's not just about having gavels and doing a bunch of investigations or senseless hearings without actually doing the work, because that's the important thing. Yes, accountability matters, but doing the work for the American people also matters.
100%.
Well. So
100%. It's not just all about, the other guy.
Yeah.
Last night I did one of the overnights for CNN, and they asked me about the not ruling out the election takeover, and they're like, as like from a legal perspective, how do you look at this? And I said, well, usually when Trump moves into a legal issue, he tends to ask for forgiveness more than permission.
Yeah.
As long as he feels like he has a strategy that will allow him to move forward and I call it the somewhat legitimate bullshit argument, right? And what I mean by that is an argument that the court won't throw out just as completely frivolous. Like there's some argument that you can make that has any legitimate grounds to it. If he feels like he has it, he'll move forward and then ask for forgiveness later if the court says you can't do that. But until then, he's gonna do it if he feels like he has operative legal grounds to do it.
Yeah, it's those filings that get side eyes from judges, but they still, kind of allow it. I'll allow it. I'll hear you out, but look at my face. I think this is bullshit. So, but I'm going to give you a chance to prove me wrong, but you're not going to.
Yeah.
But now, we've got the new AG, Todd Blanche. So he's issuing these memos claiming that Trump can invoke executive privilege over communications with private business advisors, not just White House staff. One of those legal theories that judges are going to give some side eye to.
And it's like, why? Why is that what you're talking about right now? We can tell you why. Watch our segment called Military Time, because they will answer the question.
Yeah. So these guys, I'm still pissed off about the Cornyn and Tillis and, everybody breaking at the last minute for Blanche, which I kind of knew was going to happen. Kind of knew that. It doesn't surprise me. But it's still, guys, you guys, have you not learned anything?
Right.
Have we not learned anything?
Have we not learned anything?
So let's move past elections and talk about this this secret flight from Turkey that Sean brought up. Trump hiding in the taco truck.
Oh my God.
How crazy is that?
I mean, it's atrocious, honestly. And it's sad because my husband caught the story before I did, and he asked me, he was like, have you heard about this? And he told me about it. And I immediately went, it's not going to matter. Like, there are some things that seem so like abhorrent in terms of a person's character. And you would think, surely this is something that his supporters will look down upon. And I've gotten so used to anticipating what the other side's arguments are going to be that I could just hear in my head, you have to protect the president at all costs. He doesn't have a choice about what he gets to do about his safety, and blah, blah, blah. And you heard the general say, effectively, I would say, F that, I'm the president and I get to make the decision here. And I'm telling you that I'm staying with my people, would be something that a leader would say. But he's a weenie, you know, he's a little weasel, and that's what a little weasel does.
So yeah, maybe there was some strategery going on there.
Yeah.
You know, he decided, hey, Whiskey Pete, you come with me. We're going to leave little Marco and the rest of the rubes on Air Force One to get blown up, and we're going to take a private jet, since, you know, there's a credible threat that, you know, that's just my theory. I'm saying that. Nobody run with that, but
it's unbelievable. I mean, it's believable.
Am I wrong?
No. And I mean, I almost just said it's unbelievable, but sadly it's not.
No, you know, he tries to give off that tough guy image, but that's really cowardice, you know. And Sean brought that home. You know, if he was president, that ain't what you do. And I feel the same way, but not Trump.
Yeah. And it doesn't
He'll
sound
hide
like
in the taco delivery truck, and, you know, to hell with the rest of those guys. Come on, Whiskey Pete, let's get out of here.
Gross.
Little Marco Rubio has too many, you know, aspirations of being president one day. It's okay if he gets it in Air Force One.
I can't.
So, yeah, I know. I can't even anymore, but here we are.
Yep.
Here we are. So what else do we got in the news? Yeah. Speaking of shocking, ICE is talking about wearing shock gloves in detention centers now.
I missed that one.
Shock gloves.
What is a shock glove? I've never heard of that.
I'm assuming it's like a cattle prod inside a glove that can shock people. You know, they're looking at a $20 million purchase order for those, and I'm sure they're going to be trying to use them at protests as well. So,
you know something, they allocated $20 million in the budget for body cams. And now they want to spend $20 million on shock gloves. Want to know why? Because President Trump has a deal with the company that makes them. How do I know? Because I went and looked at the stock trades, and I went and looked at the investments, and I went and looked at the meetings that he's had. And I can tell you for damn sure that that's what's going on. Because the company that I'm referring to specifically makes like unique equipment for law enforcement that immigration is going to work with. Like, that's what they do.
I mean, the corruption out of this administration has been going on since the first, you know, Trump 1.0, but it's really, really gotten out of control in Trump 2.0. I mean, it's just, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. It's just open season on corruption, when the billionaires on down to, you know, the regular defense contractors that, you know, he can get his kids on the boards of, and him and his family can make some money off of it. I mean, it's disgusting.
So let's think about it this way. Let's play this game. Why would a MAGA Republican overlook the corruption, right? Understanding that this person, right? Because when you do this, we're not assuming that this MAGA Republican is evil or stupid, okay? Look, why does a sane, good person look at this behavior and write it off and say it's okay, right? So the only thing I can think of is that they're so afraid of immigrants or Iranians or whatever it is. They're so afraid of what would happen if a liberal were president or if he weren't president, that they're willing to overlook it, because the facts are all there, right? Like if you're somebody who is looking at the news story, you can't look away from it. It's just there. There's no other set of facts that's going to allow you to justify what he's doing. And that's why Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro and everybody have said, yeah, the corruption is blatant and ridiculous. But what am I missing? Like,
but those guys are part and parcel of the problem. They're part and parcel of the problem. That's the issue that I see. These guys have been primed for so long to fear so much that Democrats are communists. This has been going on the right and that media ecosystem
Yeah.
for so long that people would abandon common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Common sense should dictate that some of this stuff that they're saying, not some of it, the vast majority of the things that they're saying about the other side, they've been primed to know who they are
Right.
just by saying they don't even have to say Democrats anymore.
Right.
They just say they.
Hey,
They've been
scary.
primed for years to know, that means the Democrats. Now
Mhm.
they have a new tool to work with, the DSA. So they're painting all Democrats with that brush. So when they say they, it's DSA candidates now, and it means all Democrats. All Democrats are socialists. All Democrats are
Mhm.
communists, fascists. Want to destroy America. Want to, put men and women's sports. All of those things that they've been so primed to do that, to think that way, that they can't abandon it now at this point. That's
Yeah.
why that
Yeah, like they're too dug
30
in.
that's at 30 to 34% of people who are still with Trump.
I hear that.
That's who that is.
And I think
They
that the
can't abandon it
measurement,
now
I think
because
the definitions in the measurement are wrong, because there are people, like, if you ask, like, is somebody a Republican, right? There are people who may have identified as a Republican and, like, for the first time, and said, you know what, I think I'm a Republican now. Even if they said they were, like, there's some that might say that they were an independent, but they voted for Trump. But there were some who said, you know what, I think I'm a Republican now in the 2024 election. Those folks switched back. So
I considered them independents, though. People. Those are the people I considered independents.
They are, but they might not identify themselves as that to a pollster, right?
Mm-hmm.
People
They'll pick a
identify
side.
themselves differently.
Yeah.
And so when you take the polls of who all is still supporting Trump, people who have identified as MAGA Republicans the entire time, versus people who haven't, that's a different, right? Like there's a chunk of people that are getting lost.
I believe that. That's why the polls are always wrong.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's that bit of tribalism. There's that bit of, and I talked about this out on the campaign trail when I was a candidate, how, certain people, it's hard to convince them to turn against what people they loved.
Yeah.
Like their pastors.
Yep.
Mothers, fathers, teachers, brothers, sisters, their community has been talking about
Since
all
they were
this time.
little, since they were
They're all
born.
living in that same ecosystem, and for them to push back now, maybe that's a bridge too far for them.
And
not
that's
making
why,
excuses for them because it's fucking dumb, but I'm just trying to understand it, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around because, if I can look at something that I believed and say, wait a minute, I've got proof now that what I believed is verifiably wrong.
right.
I'm moving off of it.
Right.
I'm not too big to say that. I've been wrong about a great many things in my life.
Me too.
But when it comes to character and things like this, usually not. I knew who Trump was day one as soon as he came down the escalator.
Yep.
Wasn't wrong about that. And that's not the kind of stuff that I'm wrong about.
Right. I think, the other side thinks that our empathy is a weakness. And I like to tell people that anyone who tells you that empathy is a weakness is trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
The CIA, like, operatives who are on YouTube, who are like the current and former CIA trainers who, like, now train corporate people, have said for years that the number one way to influence somebody is to have empathy. That's it gives you the most power, period. And so
that's how you're going to win a person over. You're going to listen to them. You're going to find out what makes them tick, and
you feel them, right? Exactly.
Empathize with them.
Exactly. And so, of course, they want us to throw that out the window. So the point that you just made, so over the past weekend, like this past Friday, I was on Fox News and I was talking with Will Cain. And I don't know why in the moment I went straight for what I did, but I think I just got so frustrated at all the Islamophobia that I decided to speak up for the people who follow Hassan Piker. Because
indignation.
Yeah, it wasn't that I was endorsing him. It was just that I understood it. And I just got so frustrated at all of the Islamophobia that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be nuanced about this, even though I should have been. And so I issued this apology on X about it. And I was like, you know what? They should have denounced it. And I have a very specific reason why. One is the violent language, and two is something that I really like to talk to him about that I'll preview with you guys now. But somebody sent the clips, and the one that I had done earlier in the week with Batya talking about Dr. El Sayed, and they sent it to him, and Hassan did like a 30-minute segment on it. And he was very nice. He was like, saying something like, well, she probably got a boss call and that's why she denounced me. And I was like, no, I don't work for anybody else, but I would love to talk to you about why I did issue the apology, because I stand by it. And I shouldn't have said that you should be campaigning with any politicians. And it goes beyond the violent language piece of it. Here's what I think. There are people who serve different functions in society, right? And he gives a voice, or not necessarily a voice, but he puts words to how his followers are feeling in the same way that Van Jones did for me. And you go, that's how I feel. And so they're willing to excuse your bullshit. They're willing to excuse the crazy that you say because they don't take it seriously. I think when it comes to politicians, though, right, he has an audience. Politicians, to me, the only politicians that belong in office right now are ones who are going to allow us to heal. And that's not what a lot of politicians want right now, right? They want to win, and the more that they try to scare you of the other side, to divide us so that they can get more votes, so that they can get money to fund their campaigns. For me, I don't think that a divisive figure should be on stage with a politician, because I want all politicians right now. For me, it's not about winning at all costs. For me, it's about healing at all costs. So it's like the highest and greatest good, the highest and best good is going to be us healing, and we are fucking ready for it at this point. No. So I just don't want anyone. I don't want a figure who is so divisive that he can't bring people together, and that he doesn't have the. It's not that he doesn't have the capacity. I'm sure he does if he wanted to, but he hasn't done it. And until I see it, I'm not changing my mind.
No, and I'm on board with that 100%, because I think in order for the healing to start, you got to have, at the bare minimum, a Democratic House majority. A Democratic Senate majority would be great, because that would really, really help put the kibosh on some of the Trump crazy. We're not going to be able to fully start healing until we get into a post-Trump America, which even when his term is up,
right,
as long as he still draws breath, he's going to be a distraction, but he won't have any juice to do anything, and we'll be dealing with that for years to come, the fallout in that. But the healing does, I agree with you, need to start somewhere.
And that's really my thing, is that ideas don't die. They never die. The only way that you can change the energy of an idea is by evolving it. And it's the same thing that I tell lawyers to do when a defense lawyer makes an argument that is coherent but wrong and misleading. What you have to do is you don't spend all your time attacking that argument. You zoom out and show the jury the bigger picture and how that argument fits within it, because that's how you tell them the truth, and they trust you because they can trust you. And so that's how you take that idea, and you don't have to cancel it, right? Because ideas don't die. It has to evolve into something more true, right? Into something that is actually true versus just a piece of it. And I think as we get closer to that, as humans who still have empathy, right, will recognize it. So I'm not saying that everyone is going to recognize the truth as such, but I think there are enough people who can still come around. And I'm scared about just moving on to the next person, because I do agree that him being gone will help us heal 100%. But those feelings that he fomented of racism, of fear of the other, of division, of demonization of people and dehumanization. That doesn't just disappear with him. And I want it to disappear. And so Hassan Piker and candidates who are currently running for like those kinds of seats. Not our candidates. Our candidates have beautiful leadership qualities that I believe actually want to heal. But the people we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
They are, and a lot of their supporters are win at all cost candidates. And what I'm saying is we can't afford to not heal at this point. That's what I'm saying.
Again, our guest Sean Harris wears it perfectly on his shirts and his logos. Leadership matters.
He's in the trenches. He's talking to everybody. He's literally bringing people together all the time. All of our candidates do. So this criticism does not apply to them. That's one of the reasons I'm so proud to be on this show, is because we advocate for people who I think are some of the only ones doing. And I'd love to know more. If the audience could tell me more, we'll bring them on the show, because I think, you know, it's wonderful to have people who are actively trying to bring us together.
Absolutely. I mean, the healing, like you said, the healing's got to begin somewhere. We got to get back to, or at least close to the point where, you know, we can agree on what the truth actually is.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And that's going to take some work. That's going to be the part, you know, agreeing on what's true and what's observably false and not true.
How do we do that, Marcus?
Common sense has got to rule the day again. We got to start talking to each other and stop the dehumanization factor, stop the fear mongering, you know, and just, you know, get to a place where we're actually sitting. And here's the kicker. Herein lies the rub. Some of our members of Congress actually do that. On both sides. Some of them actually do that.
Yeah.
But they are in the minority right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to get those type of leaders back in the majority on both sides of the house.
Yeah, I agree.
Republicans stop backing the worst of the worst candidates, the people who are coming out saying, oh, I can be more MAGA than Mike Lindell, which is fucking nuts. I mean,
fucking nuts.
You'd have to be fucking nuts.
I'm so glad that people
were left of Mike Lindell. You got to be.
And I'm also so glad that people were like to Nancy Mace. No, if there's one politician right now that I just can't stand other than like Max Miller and Ken Paxton, it's Nancy fucking Mace. I cannot. This woman is
we're almost done with her.
So bad.
Yeah, we're almost done with her. She's gone.
I'm so glad that even Republicans were like,
too much.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what it's been. It's been a race to the bottom for the last several years.
Yep.
On that side of the house, you know, or on that side of the aisle, rather. You know, and with that, folks, I'm sorry. We got off into a rant, but
that was fun, though.
Sorry. Again, I'm not sorry about that.
It was fun.
This is coming from our hearts.
Yeah, thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
So I got to stop saying I'm sorry, because I'm not. It's true.
It's true.
That's all we have for today, folks. Thank you to all of our paid subscribers for joining us. Stay tuned tomorrow for our next installment of Military Time, where Maddie and I are going to break down some of the topics in the military. And, you know, it's our new segment for our paid subscribers.
Yep. Sign up. It's not expensive.
Not expensive at all. You know, $8 a month.
And it helps us get on the list that is like the top 100 list that exposes our content to more people. And that's the goal, is to try to get the message as far and wide as possible. And if that's something that you want to contribute to, that is the way you can do it.
Yes, so, it's a great way to get the voice out for some of these candidates that we're having on, which stay tuned for more of those. We got some exciting ones coming up in the future. Yeah. We thank you all for joining us, even if you're a paid subscriber or not, all of our subscribers. We appreciate you as well. And that's all we have for today, folks. Godspeed. And as always, with all due respect.